A motivational speech by Edgar C. Reed. What is being a man? Being a man has often been wrapped in stereotypes, strength provider roles. But those are cultural snapshots, not the full truth. In reality, it's less about fitting an external mold and more about embodying certain principles of maturity and integrity, regardless of the gender. Here are a few core aspects many would agree define what it really means. Responsibility, owning your actions and their consequences, being reliable for yourself and those who depend on you. Integrity, doing the right thing even when no one is watching, and even when it's not the easy choice. Courage, not just physical bravery, but the willingness to be vulnerable, speak the truth, and stand for what matters. Emotional strength, not suppressing feelings, but learning to understand, manage, and express them in healthy ways. Respect, treating others with dignity, regardless of power or status. Growth, constantly working on becoming a better version of yourself. Wiser, more patient, more compassionate. Service, using your abilities to contribute to the well-being of your family, community, or the world. Put simply, being a man isn't about muscle, status, or domination. It's about living with honor, humility, and purpose. Here's the distinction that clears up a lot of confusion. Being a male is a biological classification based on physical traits and having the chromosomes X and Y. Chromosomes that are given you, not earned. You're born male. You don't have to prove or develop anything for that to be true. No moral quality attached. Biology doesn't make you honorable, mature, or wise. It just describes your physical sex. Being a man is a state of maturity, character, and responsibility, developed over time through choices and growth. Earned, not automatic. Age or physical traits alone don't make you a man. It's a process of self-mastery, built on values. Integrity, discipline, courage, empathy, and accountability are what define a man. Key difference in practice. A male can run from responsibility. A man faces it. A male can use strength to dominate. A man uses it to protect. A male can follow impulse. A man controls it for a greater good. A male can seek validation. A man seeks to contribute and build. Put bluntly, being male is about anatomy. Being a man is about character. One is something you are. The other is something you become. Responsibility is the cornerstone of manhood. The point where intention meets action and action meets consequence. It begins with the quiet acknowledgement that everything I do leaves a mark on my life, on the lives of those around me, and on the world beyond. A man understands that he is not merely a passenger through life, but the driver of his own path. He recognizes that his choices ripple outward, shaping not only his own fate, but the environment his loved ones must live in. This is why responsibility is not a burden, but an honor. It's the trust placed in you to lead with care, foresight, and integrity. Owning your actions means you stop making excuses. You don't blame your upbringing, your circumstances, or the failures of others for your own missteps. Instead, you say, "This was my choice. I will face it." This isn't about perfection. No man is without fault, but about courage. the courage to look reality in the eye, admit when you've fallen short, and do the work to make it right. In that moment, you turn mistakes into lessons, and lessons into wisdom. Those who depend on you will not remember that you never stumbled. They will remember that when you did, you got back up and faced the music. Being reliable is the daily practice of responsibility. It's showing up when you say you will. It's following through on your word, even when it costs you comfort or convenience. It's knowing that people can sleep a little easier because they trust that if you've said you'll be there, you will be there. This reliability is not built overnight. It's forged over time, through countless small promises kept. And when that trust is earned, it becomes one of the most sacred bonds a man can hold. Responsibility also extends inward, to the way a man cares for himself. It is impossible to be a steady pillar for others if your own foundation is crumbling. Taking responsibility for your health, your finances, your mental well-being, and your moral compass is not selfish. It's essential. When you are grounded and whole, you can carry more for others. When you neglect yourself, you become a burden instead of a strength. A true man knows that his life is not just his own. It's a lifeline to many others. And finally, responsibility is about legacy. Every man will leave something behind. His actions will echo in his children, in the communities he touched, in the quiet memories people carry of his words and deeds. To be responsible is to live each day aware that you are building that legacy now. One day, when your voice is silent, those who knew you will say either he was a man you could count on, or he was a man you couldn't trust. That choice is made in the small, unseen moments of responsibility you take today. Integrity is the silent measure of a man, the invisible thread that ties together his words, his actions, and his values. It's what you do when no one is watching, when there is no applause to win and no shame to fear. Integrity means that your principles don't bend depending on convenience or audience. It's about being the same man in the spotlight as you are in the shadows, holding fast to what is right even when it costs you. Without integrity, strength becomes dangerous, courage becomes reckless, and influence becomes corrupt. With it, every action carries the weight of truth. To live with integrity is to speak honestly and act consistently. It means your yes means yes, and your no means no. It means you refuse to manipulate, to deceive, or to take advantage, even when doing so would benefit you. A man with integrity understands that temporary gain purchased at the cost of trust is no gain at all. Trust, once broken, is almost impossible to rebuild, and a man's word, once tarnished, can never shine the same way again. Integrity requires courage because it will often put you at odds with the easier path. It might mean standing alone when everyone else goes along. It might mean telling the truth when a lie would protect you. It might mean keeping a promise that no one else remembers, but you do, and you know breaking it would wound your own soul. Integrity is not loud, but it is unshakable. And when you carry it, you walk with a quiet confidence, knowing you can look yourself in the mirror without flinching. Integrity shapes how a man treats others. When you have it, you see people not as tools for your use, but as lives with their own dignity and worth. You honor commitments not only to your equals, but also to those who have no power over you. You keep confidences, protect the vulnerable, and tell the truth even when it's uncomfortable. You never promise what you cannot deliver, and you never exploit trust for personal gain. People may not always like what you say, but they will respect the man who says it with honesty and fairness. And ultimately, integrity becomes the foundation of your legacy. Long after you're gone, the things you owned or achieved will fade from memory, but the way you carried yourself, the unspoken moral compass you lived by, will remain in the stories people tell about you. They will remember if you were fair, if you could be trusted, if your word was gold. And in the end, that is the truest wealth a man can pass down. The example of a life lived without hypocrisy, where principles outweighed profit and truth was never for sale. Courage is the beating heart of manhood, the force that turns principles into action. Without courage, responsibility remains a good intention, and integrity becomes a quiet wish. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward in spite of it. A man who has courage does not wait for perfect conditions or the guarantee of success. He steps forward because the cause is worth the risk. And this courage is not only for the grand, heroic moments. More often, it lives in the quiet, everyday choices that demand you do what's right, even when your knees are shaking. True courage begins within. It starts with the bravery to confront yourself, your doubts, your weaknesses, your failures, without turning away. Many men will face danger in the world, but avoid the battlefield inside themselves. Yet until you face the truths you've been running from, you will never walk freely. This inner courage is what allows you to change when you must, to apologize when you're wrong, and to grow beyond the limits you once thought were fixed. Courage shows itself in defense of others. It's standing between harm and those who cannot defend themselves, speaking up for someone whose voice is ignored, or protecting what is good when it is threatened. This may mean physical defense, but just as often it means moral defense, standing for truth when lies are easier, or for justice when injustice is popular. Courage often costs you comfort, popularity, and safety, but it earns something far greater: the respect of those who know you will not abandon them when the world turns cold. Courage is also the strength to be vulnerable. It takes more bravery to open your heart than to clench your fist, to tell your children you love them, to admit to your partner that you're afraid, to trust another person with the parts of you that are still healing. This vulnerability is not weakness. It is the raw material of genuine connection. A man who can be open without losing his strength is a man who has learned that courage is not just about winning battles, but about letting yourself be seen. And finally, courage builds the stories others will talk about you. Years from now, when the details of your life fade, people will remember the moments you stepped forward when it mattered most. They will recall how you didn't flinch in the face of truth, how you stood for something greater than yourself, how you faced your fears rather than letting them define you. And in those stories, they will see the heart of what it means to be a man. Not invincible, but unyielding, guided by a cause worth more than his own comfort. Emotional strength is the quiet discipline of the heart, the ability to feel deeply without being ruled by those feelings. It's not about shutting emotions down or pretending they don't exist. On the contrary, it's about welcoming them in, understanding them, and then choosing your actions with wisdom rather than impulse. A man with emotional strength doesn't lash out in anger or collapse in despair. He feels the storm, but he remains the captain of his own ship. This is not something you're born with. It's a skill honed through reflection, patience, and self-awareness. It begins with self-control. Life will test you with frustration, injustice, and loss. Without emotional strength, you may react in ways that harm others and weaken yourself. But with it, you learn to pause, breathe, and choose your words and actions with purpose. You realize that your first emotion is not always your best guide, and that the moment you gain control over your reactions, you gain control over your life. This is not suppression, it's mastery. Emotional strength is also about empathy. A man who understands his own feelings can better understand the feelings of others. This allows him to connect without judgment, to comfort without dismissing, and to listen without needing to immediately fix or defend. Empathy does not weaken a man. It expands his capacity to lead, protect, and love. People will follow a man who understands them because they feel safe in his presence. It also means enduring emotional pain without breaking your commitments. Life will bring seasons of grief, disappointment, and betrayal. Emotional strength doesn't mean these moments don't hurt. It means you keep standing even when they do. You show up for your family when you're tired. You do your work with excellence when you'd rather quit. You keep your promises when your heart is heavy. In those moments, emotional strength becomes visible to the world and inspiring to those who witness it. And ultimately, emotional strength gives a man the power to love well. Love without emotional strength can become possessive, unstable, or conditional. But when a man's emotions are steady, his love becomes a shelter, a safe place where others can grow without fear. This is the kind of love that outlasts the storms, the kind that children remember as the anchor of their upbringing, the kind that partners treasure as the foundation of their bond. In mastering your emotions, you are not losing your humanity. You are shaping it into a force that can protect, guide, and uplift others for a lifetime. Respect is the mark of a man who understands his place in the human family, that no one stands above or beneath the dignity of another. It is not just politeness or courtesy, though those are its outward signs. True respect comes from the recognition that every person, regardless of status, wealth, or background, carries an inherent worth that cannot be taken away. A man who lives with respect treats the janitor and the CEO with the same sincerity, knowing that the measure of his character is revealed most in how he treats those who can do nothing for him. Respect begins within. You cannot truly honor others if you secretly despise yourself. A man who lives in self-contempt will often project it outward, belittling, mocking, or undermining others to feel superior. But a man who knows his own worth has no need to diminish anyone else's. This self-respect comes from living by your values, keeping your word, and not compromising your principles for temporary gains. When you respect yourself, you naturally extend that respect to those around you. Respect is shown in how you listen. In a world quick to talk and slow to hear, a man of respect listens not just to reply, but to understand. He allows others to finish their thoughts, considers their perspective, and values their voice. This does not mean he must agree with everyone, but even in disagreement, he remains calm, fair, and civil. Respect means attacking ideas without attacking people, and never letting differences become an excuse for cruelty. Respect extends to boundaries. A man with respect does not cross lines that harm others emotionally, physically, or spiritually. He honors commitments, whether in friendship, love, or work. He understands that trust is built on the consistent honoring of those boundaries, and that violating them, even in small ways, weakens the foundation of every relationship. In respecting others' boundaries, a man communicates, "I see your value, and I will protect it, not exploit it." And ultimately, respect becomes a mirror that reflects the quality of a man's life. Those who encounter a respectful man leave feeling seen, heard, and valued. They remember him not for his titles or possessions, but for the way he made them feel like they mattered. And in return, respect often comes back multiplied. For when you consistently honor the dignity of others, you build a reputation that no amount of money or power can buy. This is the kind of legacy that lingers in people's hearts long after your presence is gone.